Jiminy Crickets.
Jiminy Cricket is the name. I'm a happy-go-lucky fellow, always getting in wrong for singing my song. A merry old soul am I. Jiminy Cricket is the name. I'll be hanging around this evening. I'll be tipping my hat and telling you that Jiminy Cricket is the name.
Hello, Cricketeers! February is almost over, and it is time for a new episode of Dateline Jiminy Crickets. I can't believe 2 weeks has already come and gone. Time goes fast when you get old, like me. Speaking of, how are you doing, Ruthie?
What? I was fine until that comment.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Ruthie is actually slightly younger than me, I have to admit.
Yeah.
So, this week we have a lot of happy news, and unfortunately, even though we complained about it last time, we do have to give tribute to a legendary person from the Disney company who unfortunately has left us. So, we will do so. We will give a heartfelt remembrance. And we have some fun updates about overseas parks, among other things. So, I just wanted to mention that we have joined a special network of nerds. And we're nerds. We fit right in to that. And it's called the Roarbots. And this is actually a website with all sorts of articles and other podcasts, all sort of related to geek culture. And I'll read, this is their description of that website. I found it on the website, so I'm quoting the website here. A celebration of geek culture representing a diversity of voices that covers a broad swath of the nerdy landscape. I think we're part of that, Ruthie, wouldn't you say? If you speak of broad swath, Disney geeks are part of geek culture.
Yeah.
And it says, fair warning. Fair warning. Like, I feel like that robot is the one saying this.
Yeah.
Our working definition of geek culture is constantly evolving. So you'll likely see us geek out about everything from movies, games, and toys to food and travel destinations. And one of the other podcasts is a family travel podcast. And right now they're kind of going through all of the different parks in the Magic Kingdom, in Walt Disney World, including the Magic Kingdom. And they just released an episode about Animal Kingdom today, or it would be yesterday because we're time travelers here. We're recording this a day in advance. And their website address is www.theroarbots.com. So be sure to check it out. Our podcasts are now going to also be posted on there. We'll still be posted everywhere we used to be. Nothing's going to change. But like this video, it will be on YouTube, but you can also access the video. It'll be embedded on our page on Roarbots. So different places that we can be seen. We're just kind of spreading ourselves out and getting more exposure, and we're really happy to be a part of this group because they're just a bunch of really nice people that are into really fun stuff. So be sure to check them out. So now that we've mentioned that, we have a very special announcement. Dateline Jiminy Crickets proudly endorses Concierge Vacation Planners, a Disney-authorized specialty vacation planning service. Concierge doesn't just book your trip, they walk you through the entire process, helping you plan out every detail, one-on-one, to make the very most out of your vacation while saving you both time and money. And the best part is they charge nothing for their services. You will get the exact same pricing as if you booked your vacation directly through Disney. But in using Concierge's expertise, you've got the added bonus of having your very own personal Disney Guru planner by your side. Both Ruthie and I are also satisfied customers, and we just can't recommend them enough. Visit their website at www.concierge.com. That's www.concierge.com, as in mouse ears. So when you book your next Disney vacation, be it Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Line, or many of the other Disney destinations available worldwide, contact Concierge Vacation Planners, and be sure to tell them Disney Chris sent you.
Encyclopedia, Encyclopedia. Encyclopedia, if you want to know the answers, here is the way. Just look inside this book and you will see everything from A clear down through Z in the Encyclopedia, Encyclopedia.
This shelf especially has some of our older items, almost all of which I collected myself because the company had not saved any of this early material. In this case, we always had, as Walt Disney's history, some drawings that he did when he was in high school. The Carrollwood Pacific was his train that he had in his backyard. It's one of the things that gave him the idea for Disneyland. Walt Disney decided in 1954 to go onto television.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream. That's it, right here. Disneyland.
Here was this park that Walt was building, and he was so excited about it, and you could just feel his excitement. And I was perched on, on the edge of my chair watching. I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. You can't express in words the excitement of walking under the train station there and walking into Main Street for the first time and seeing the castle down at the end of the street. That meant a lot to me. One of those early trips, I actually did meet Walt Disney in the park. And I thought, here's my chance to get Walt Disney's autograph. I thought, I don't have any writing implements, so I went into the first shop, and it was a magic shop. And all they had was a 2-foot-long pencil that wrote in multicolors. Asked if I could get his autograph, and he politely declined. He said that when he started signing autographs, he got this huge crowd around him, and he was never able to get his work done. So he told me to write him at the studio, and he'd be glad to send me his autograph. So I did, and he sent it to me, and I still have it today. I was very honored when they asked me to be a Disney legend. I never felt at all that I would be in the entertainment industry. I mean, I wasn't an actor. I didn't make movies. That just didn't occur to me. But when I met Walt, that's when it started for me.
Well, we're really sad about this, but unfortunately, someone who I really loved and admired what he did, Dave Smith, has left us for that great big castle up in the sky. And we kiddingly said last time we recorded an episode that no more people in Disney were allowed to leave us. And then the very next day, we get word that Dave Smith passed. The very next, like the day the podcast came out, we get the word that Dave Smith died. So I'd just like to put this out there. Now I'm not kidding. It's not a joke. Nobody else is allowed to go. Because we've lost some major Disney legends this year, and the year has just started.
Right.
And it's getting really annoying at this point. I don't want it to happen anymore.
Right.
Now, I just want to point out why we're including this in this segment instead of in our news. And we thought that it might be a good idea to have him be our encyclopedia topic, because the reason and inspiration behind our encyclopedia segment is a book that he wrote, Disney A to Z, the Disney Encyclopedia. And so, I mean, we've been honoring Dave Smith since the very beginning of this our other podcast we used to do, Encyclopedia. So pretty much since the inception. I mean, we came up with this idea, Jerry Skids and I, when we were coming up with our initial ideas for the podcast. So this was like before we even recorded our first podcast. This was always going to be a part of it from the beginning. And I mean, we've had periods where we haven't done Encyclopedia, but it's something that we always fall back on. It's something we always come back to. And basically what we've done in the past, and this is going to be a little different, but what we've done in the past is we open up the encyclopedia and just at random we pick a topic out of the encyclopedia and we just talk about it. And it's easy to do because pretty much anything and everything about Disney is in that book. So, I mean, Dave Smith was sort of thought of as the person who was the authority on anything about Disney's past, anything Disney history, but he used to jokingly say that he had to look it up too. So,
Yeah.
But one thing he would say too is sometimes I look it up in my own book. And
That's
so,
why you write things down, so you don't have to memorize them.
right. So, Ruthie, what articles did we use for this story?
So we use two articles. One is from D23.com titled Remembering Dave Smith from February 15. And then the other articles from the LA Times titled Walt Disney Company Archivist Dave Smith, an unsung hero who cataloged company secrets, dies at 78 by Daniel Miller and Todd Martins. And that's from February 16th.
Right. So, for those who don't know, because he was sort of a behind-the-scenes guy, and he occasionally would do public stuff, but some people who are watching this may not know who Dave Smith was because he was a humble and quiet guy, and he didn't really toot his own horn too often. So unless you were, digging for stuff about Disney, you might have not heard of Dave Smith. So we'll tell you a little bit about him. And he was the founder of the Walt Disney Archives, which began in 1970. And there's a lot of Disney history that he has cataloged and preserved over the years. Bob Iger, we wanted to start off with a tribute that he said in regards to Dave Smith. Ruthie, you want to share that with our audience?
Sure. So Bob Iger said, "I'm deeply saddened to learn of Dave Smith's passing. He was the unsung hero of Disney's history who, as our first archivist, spent 40 years rescuing countless documents and artifacts from obscurity, investing endless hours restoring and preserving these priceless pieces of our legacy and putting them in context to tell our story. Dave was a true Disney legend, and we are indebted to him for building such an enduring, tangible connection to our past that continues to inspire our future."
So, Dave Smith was born in Pasadena, California, so he was right near Disneyland when it opened. He was 15 when the park opened, and he was a visitor to the park shortly after it opened. His first time going was in 1956. But he would always say he was a Disney fan from the age of 10, so you can imagine when he was 15 and Disneyland opened like a half hour away from him, he must have been ecstatic and excited. I know I would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I had Disneyland my whole life, and I was an hour and a half away, and I was excited. But to have something like that open, and you're 15, and then you're right there, that's crazy. But, so just to point out that he was a Disney fan early on, even before he worked for Disney. When he grew up, he went to college at Berkeley University. Sorry, I'm getting confused because he worked at another university, and I'm confusing it. So he had a master's degree in library science, which is actually exactly what he became. I mean, that was the perfect foot in the door for what he did when he worked for Disney. But before he went to Disney, he worked in the manuscript department in the library in San Marino, and he interned at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and he served on the staff as the research library at UCLA. See, I almost said he went to UCLA, but he didn't. He worked for UCLA after he graduated. So, in the late 60s, he actually approached Disney, I think in 1969, and he asked them, because UCLA actually reached out to Disney when he was working there and asked them if they would like to donate all of their archival stuff to their library. And Disney politely turned them down because they didn't want to give out information that included a lot of trade secrets, so they wanted to kind of keep it themselves. So Dave actually reached out to them and asked them if they would be interested and if he cataloged it for them as sort of a project, unpaid. He did this so well, and they were so impressed by his work that they ended up buying his information from him for $1,000. And that was a lot more money in '69 than it is now.
Yeah.
So, the following year, see, this is how into Disney he was. He actually approached Disney himself. He had his foot in the door with that whole project he had done for them. So the next thing he did was he wrote up a whole job description and submitted it to Roy Disney, Walt Disney's brother, who was still around in 1970. And they hired him right away. They were very interested in what he proposed, which was to catalog and keep track of all of the Disney stuff that was worth saving, and finding stuff and saving it, preserving it for history. And this was actually a first for any Hollywood studio, because what's interesting is in 1970, what had once been the famous MGM studio had this famous auction where they basically just sold off all of their historical film memorabilia. I remember Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher's mother. She tried to stop all this. She tried to. There was a big thing where she was trying to preserve it, and she said, "Why don't we turn this into a studio tour?" There was all these amazing sets and everything at this MGM lot, but no, they just basically got rid of everything, trashed all the outdoor sets. They just didn't feel the need to preserve any of that. But at Disney, they felt differently. Mm-hmm. They realized how important it was to preserve the past. And I think a lot of that had to do with Walt Disney's philosophies, because he felt that way. I mean, even in building Disneyland, he did a lot of areas that are themed to preserving the past, like Frontierland and Main Street. So that was sort of important to Walt. So it was sort of something ingrained in the culture at the Disney studio already. And so in 1970, Dave Smith was hired by Roy Disney personally to start cataloging everything in the Disney studio that had been stuck in warehouses and, you know, in sheds in the back, and, you know, just going through and cataloging and preserving and restorations of things that had been decaying and all sorts of stuff. One of the first major projects that he worked on was Walt Disney's office had remained untouched from the day he died. Everything was left in his office exactly as he had left it in 1966. So in 1970, Dave Smith went into his office and cataloged every single item, from pencils to erasers to, you know, stains on the carpet. I mean, literally everything.
Yeah.
In
he
his
counted
office.
the paper clips that were in the drawer.
And kept them.
Yeah.
And everything was preserved. And they boxed it up, actually, and a couple years later it was brought to Disneyland. And they had it on display at the Walt Disney Story. Do you remember that, Ruthie? You looked
I didn't see it, but yes, I...
Well, before you went in to see Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, in the lobby area, which was called the Walt Disney Story, which was sort of the pre-show to Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, they had, behind these glass windows, both Walt Disney's formal and working offices, and you could look at them, and they were the real thing. Everything in there was authentic, and you could look at it. And I think a few years later, they actually sent it off to Disney World for a short time at the MGM, or the Hollywood Studios One Man's Dream area. And then when they added some stuff and kind of took out some of the exhibition space in One Man's Dream, they sent it back to Burbank, and it all sat in boxes for a few years, and then they eventually used it. We'll get into that a little bit later. So, one thing that Dave Smith would tell his underlings, and in the beginning he was the only person working there. He was it. He was the archives. But over time, they hired people. I think now they have about 25 people working in the Disney archives. And one thing he would tell them is, if you're a collector, you can't work here. Because he didn't want people to be oohing and awing all their memorabilia. He said, it's okay to be passionate about Disney, but I don't want anybody that has any temptations to, you know, hoard stuff for themselves. If they come across a great find, he wanted them to share it with the archives. He didn't want them to keep it for their own collections. Right. So he was adamant about that. And I mean, you look at these pictures of him amongst his memorabilia and things. I mean, like, here is an original poster of Snow White, I think from the re-release in the 40s. And, like, this is original printing. This is not a reprint. This is from the actual, you know. But when you look at pictures like this, it's like, this is like my fantasy to have.
Right.
Like, I collect Mickey, and I would love to have everything in that picture. I mean, I'd even love to have Dave Smith.
Right.
But yeah, he was not a collector for his own personal, but he definitely was a collector for the archives, and he would love to go to flea markets and swap meets, and he would just come across things that people didn't realize their value, and he would snatch them up and add them to the archives. I think it was probably easier in the earlier days to do that.
Yeah. When people didn't have the internet to check
Right.
things. Oh, how much does this cost?
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff.
It's probably become more difficult in more recent years, but so another thing that he's famous for is his writings. He was an author as well, and he wrote several books, and he also did a lot of articles for different Disney projects. And like we said, one of the things that he did was that Disney A to Z, which actually has been published. It's gone through reprintings and republishings because it constantly needs to be updated, because like Disney has the nerve to keep adding new stuff. So it's actually, I have the original edition, I think from the mid-90s, but the most recent edition is from 2016. And in 2016, he was actually interviewed by the LA Times in part of the promotion for his upcoming release of the new 2016 edition of Disney A to Z. And we thought we would share that video with you because it really kind of shows some of his... He tells a few fun anecdotes and things. It's a short little video, so let's watch it right now.
I was hired in 1970 to start the Walt Disney Archives. Disney was the first company in the entertainment industry to do anything about preserving its history. And there was a reason for that. Disney reuses its past so much in so many of its current projects. So they needed a well-indexed collection of their history. We started with one person, which was me. And now they've got almost 25 people in there. So it's a much larger operation than when I started. The things I enjoyed working with the most were the things related to Walt Disney himself, because these are things that most collectors can't hope to have in their own collections. Roy E. Disney, who was Walt's nephew, actually called me one day and he'd found in his garage a tin box, which was about this big. And this was the box that Walt Disney's father had kept all of his important documents and papers, and they were still in there. And so we found things like Walt's baptismal certificate from 1902, his parents' marriage certificate. Over the years, I've written about a dozen different books about Disney. I had, of course, the best collection of Disney in my office, so it was fairly easy to get the information to write these books. And one of the basic things I did was a Disney Encyclopedia. This is actually the Japanese version of Disney A to Z. What I tried to do was to do an entry for every single Disney television show, every single Disney movie, every single attraction and restaurant and shop in the Disney parks, all the way from Disneyland itself in 1955 up to Shanghai Disneyland, which just recently opened. It's sort of the Bible for all Disney fans and Disney employees. It's been very useful for me to do these books and make a lot of the information from the archives available to people. They can have these books in their own home and they can look up very easily a lot of the facts about Disney.
So here are some of the books that he wrote, and these are just a few. I think he mentioned 12. So the book on the top right, there's actually several editions. That's the Ultimate Disney Trivia book. This is the first edition. I think there were 3 more that followed it.
I think there's 4 total.
So my question is, how could that be the ultimate if there's 3 others? Just kidding. The Walt Disney Film Archives, he co-authored. A lot of the books he co-authored, but several of them he just wrote them, like the especially A to Z and Disney Facts Revealed. I was telling Ruthie while the video was playing how I had the original edition, and I bought it, I think, in the mid-90s when it was first published, and I didn't have a computer or internet or anything. This was like a miracle for me to have all this information, and I still have the book, and it's like falling apart now. All the pages are coming out, and like the spine is all messed up and everything, but I still use it. I should probably update, since a lot of the information, like the latest animated film, I think, was Pocahontas, and it doesn't have anything past that. So, but anyway, I don't own a lot of these books, but I have checked them out, but from friends who own them, and I mean, I've read a lot of his articles, and speaking of articles, one way I kind of learned about who Dave Smith is and became a fan was because back in the 80s and 90s, I was a subscriber to the Disney News, which was a quarterly magazine that came out. And again, I remember as a kid, I would check the mailbox every day when I knew the seasons were changing, because it only came 4 times a year. And I would check that mailbox every day, just hoping that my magazine would show up, because again, no internet. This was the only way I learned about what was going on in the Disney company. Well, anyway, Dave Smith wrote a column in the Disney News called Ask Dave Smith. And basically, at the bottom of the header, you can see it says what address to write to. And you could ask him questions, and he would research it and answer it. And, he could only select a few. He couldn't, I'm sure there were a lot that he couldn't answer because he was only allowed to, he would take up the whole magazine. It was just one page in the magazine. But I always enjoyed that because I just wondered, who is this funny looking man that knows all this information? And I was just sort of fascinated by it. And then I remember they actually had an article about him in the magazine, and I have copies on my computer of every Disney News from the beginning up until it was discontinued. And I almost thought about trying to find the article I remembered about him, but I mean, there's hundreds of magazines, and it would take forever. But I do remember there was an article about him. And that was how I really was introduced to him, was through a magazine. I just thought it would be fun to show this picture, which is often shown. It's a caricature of him holding a Donald Duck doll, which is something they probably would have in the Disney archives.
Yeah.
But it's funny because they used this image for his Ask Dave avatar. I guess they didn't call them avatars back then, but we read, Ruthie and I, that he actually had this illustration framed and hanging in his living room. So he didn't collect, but I guess if somebody made something for him, he would keep it.
Yeah.
So, Ruthie, tell us about what happened in 2007.
So in 2007, Dave was honored with the prestigious Disney Legend Award. So you can see him standing here in this picture next to his handprints, which are at the Disney studio now. So you can go see them whenever you like if you're in that neighborhood.
And see how big your hands are compared to his.
Right.
Because everybody has to put their hands in and measure them. So, yeah, it's called Disney Legends Plaza, and everybody who's ever received a Disney Legend Award, unless it was posthumously, has a plaque with their handprints. They still have a plaque if it was awarded posthumously, but if they're still alive, they cast their hands in bronze. And they have the Partners statue, actually, a duplicate of it, the one in front of the castle at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. The exact same statue is actually in that plaza also. So it's a very nice little area in the studio. So, like we said, the archives has grown over the years and expanded. And it's in very good hands. A lot of people were asking me about, they were worried about, and I said, don't worry. There's people there that love Disney as much as Dave did. And it's in very good hands, and the archives is going to keep going and keep preserving Disney magic for years and years to come. So he set the precedent, and people who worked there knew him personally, loved him, and there's no way they would let him down. So don't worry about the future of the Disney archives. One of the last projects he was involved in, we mentioned earlier, was Walt Disney's office, and now the actual space where his office was located has been preserved and put back exactly as Walt left it, which I find to be sort of odd, that when he came into the company, this is exactly what it looked like, and then they boxed it up and put it away, and then at the end of his career and the end of his life, they put it all back the way it had been when he first started. I just find that
circle. Yeah.
It's very, like, surreal, I guess.
Yeah.
Or anyway, what's nice about this is anybody visiting the Disney studio on special tours, any celebrity guests that are visiting the studio can actually go into Walt's office and see it with their own eyes. And I enjoyed seeing it at Disneyland, but it's not the same as actually walking into it and seeing it where it really was located. I mean, I can imagine that if I ever had the opportunity to do that, I would probably break down in tears and be
Are you kidding me? Me
too
as well.
emotional to deal with it.
Yeah.
I should mention, which is just kind of off topic, but those pictures, those illustrated drawings on the sides are, at the top.
Mm-hmm.
That's Sharon and Diane, and those were drawn by the Norman Rockwell.
Wow.
And then the pictures next to each one that are a little bit lower are actual photographs of them as adults. So the illustrations is when they were children, and then they have their adult photos next to them. I think that's really sweet, and it really says how much Walt was just sort of a real dad, proud of his children. It's not like, I feel like a lot of people that are high power like that today, family is so unimportant to them, but it was never like that for Walt.
Yeah. I mean, he drove them to school every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to Dave, because we can talk about Walt anytime, but so do you have any final things you'd like to say about him? Any personal takeaways?
I mean, I feel like I have a little bit of a connection with him because, he was born and raised in Pasadena. That's where I'm from. He worked at UCLA. That's where I graduated from. And he's a huge Disney fan, which of course I am too. So, of course I really felt this loss hearing about this. It was really upsetting to me. And but to know that he has left such a huge legacy that will be continued on for, as far as we can comprehend. It's going to be Dave Smith's footprint.
Right.
And I just think that's amazing. I think that he had the foresight of Walt when he thought of starting to catalog all of the stuff and just start saving it. That is a huge thing that nobody really thought of, and I'm so glad that he did. And people still go in there today to do a lot of research, and I know it's used to debunk a lot of like false, quote unquote fake news that people might bring up about Disney. You can go into the archives. We can't literally go in there, but somebody who's doing research can go in there and find the truth. And I think that's a huge legacy that he has been able to preserve the truth about Disney. So I think that's amazing. And my heart is really, hurt over the loss of Dave Smith.
Yeah, I feel like he was... I'm sorry. Well, he was a real can-do kind of guy, so very perfect.
Yep. He thought he could, and he did.
Yeah, and he did. And he climbed high hills. Just like Casey Jr. So, not only did he catalog and preserve Disney history as far as the publication, the preservation of what happened at what date, and birth certificates and documentations, but he's also preserved a lot of Disney memorabilia that otherwise would have been lost forever. He has the very first ticket ever sold to Disneyland, which is unbelievable.
Right.
He, up to the redhead, which we talked about on our last show. That's still being preserved, the original redhead from Pirates of the Caribbean, because it's important. It's part of Disney history. So, I mean, it's sort of anything and everything that's not being used anymore might be used again and be needed again. So it's there, being preserved, and it's all thanks to Dave Smith. And I was really upset as well to hear about the loss. But we will never forget him, and we have a lot of gratitude that we need to pay to him for all that he has brought to the Disney fandom, the Disney community, and the Walt Disney Company as a whole.
Yep.
So, let's move on to the news. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Alrighty.
From the far corners of the earth, from across the 7 seas, the news of the day for the leaders of tomorrow. The Mickey Mouse Newsreel, dedicated to you, the leaders of the 21st century.
Well, just the other day, Hollywood had its popularity contest again. I want to mention something before we get into this topic, which is obviously we're going to talk about the Oscars, unless you're not paying attention to either the music or what we have up on the screen. Yeah. I mean, you might be listening to this and not watching it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had a little scuffle the other day. Well, I mainly did, because I was so annoyed that Ron Miller and another person I love who's not actually Disney related, Carol Channing, were both snubbed at the Oscar what do they call it? Memoriam? Memoriam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I almost said memorandum, which I know is not the right word. But anyway, they weren't included in the little film they put together showing all the people who have passed the past year. So I was really annoyed and angry, actually very angry, that both of them were left out. And I ranted on Facebook and Twitter about it, made a big stink about it. And I normally don't do that sort of thing where I voice my personal opinions on things. I feel like the less you do it, the more impactful it is. If you save it for the big things and not, complain about every little thing, people are apt to pay more attention when you do complain about something. So that's kind of my philosophy as far as social media. But then somebody reminded me, and I was like, that. And I think a lot of people in the media didn't even think of this, because there were articles that other people had published. I mean, like actual news writers and whatnot. And even Carol Channing's family came out and made a statement about how they were upset about it. But I was reminded that the film only covers people from January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018. It's only talking about the people who passed away in the year 2018, because these are the awards for the year 2018. Then Ruthie pointed out that they actually included, who was the actor, Ruthie?
Albert Finney.
Albert Finney, who just died 10 days ago. So now I'm really confused.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think now. So
I don't know either. Yeah.
But Ruthie and I will be watching next year. Well, Ruthie will be, because I don't watch the Oscars. But she will be watching, and she will let me know if they included Ron Miller and Carol Channing. And if they do, I will not say a word in protest. But if they don't, then I will make a big stink again. So you have that to look forward to next year. Anyway, that being said, we thought it would be fun to talk about the Oscar winners from the Walt Disney Company this year. And even though they made more money and had more big hits than any other studio, they only received 4 sort of token, I consider them token awards, which kind of goes to show how, and Ruthie doesn't really agree 100% with me on this, but I'm just not a big fan of the Oscars, in case you didn't know by the tone of my voice and how I call that a popularity contest, because I feel like it doesn't really, they never choose awards for things that are what people love and enjoy. They just pick snooty films about history or, you know, very overly dramatic stories. I mean, there's exceptions to that, but I'm generalizing. But I just feel like a lot of the movies that get nominated, I've never even heard of, including the ones from this year. I don't know any of these movies. What are these? I never heard of these. When did they come out? When were they advertised? Where do I go to hear about these movies that I don't think anybody watching the Oscars has seen either? I mean, I just don't understand it. Anyway, enough. Let's get to positive stuff. Let's talk about what Disney did win. So we thought it would be fun to kind of have our little award ceremony ourselves here. And so, Ruthie, what are the nominees for Best Original Score?
So the first nominee is Black Klansman. The score was done by Terrence Blanchard. The second nominee was Black Panther, and that was done by Ludwig Göransson. If Beale Street Could Talk, done by Nicholas Britell. Isle of Dogs, Alexandra Desplat. And Mary Poppins Returns, Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman.
And the award goes to
Black Panther, Ludwig Göransson. Woohoo!
So, what have you listened to the score of Black Panther?
Yes, it's an amazing score. It goes perfectly with the movie, and you know, it does what a score is supposed to do. Like, it brings you more into the world of Black Panther, to Wakanda. You know, it has a lot of African underlying themes and things like that. So,
right.
I mean, it definitely deserves to win, and I'm very happy that it did, because, again, like, this part of Wakanda is the score.
Right. Yeah, that would be interesting. I haven't heard the score or seen the movie yet, because I haven't seen any Marvel movies, but I didn't think about that. I do know, you know, the basic premise of the story, and I know that part of it takes place in, like, a fictional, like, African-type setting. But, so that's interesting, because I would really enjoy hearing how they incorporated that traditional African-type music into an orchestral score. That's the kind of stuff that I find fascinating with music, is how they can blend things like that together. So, anyway, our next category is Best Production Design. And the nominees are
Black Panther, done by Hannah Beachler. Actually, it's Beachler, I'm sorry. The second movie nominated was First Man, Nathan Crawley and Kathy Lucas. The next movie is
I think we have to get a new announcer, folks.
Sorry. I'm not getting paid to do this, okay?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
Continue.
The next movie is The Favorite, Fiona Crombie and Alice Felton. Mary Poppins Returns, John Mayer, Gordon Sim, and Roma, Eugenio Cabrero, and Barbara Enriquez.
They're really throwing the tough Italian names in here. And the award goes to... Oops. And the award goes to...
Black Panther, Hannah Beachler. Woohoo!
So when I was... again, I haven't seen the movie, but when I was setting up the images for the segment, I was pretty amazed at some of the scenery that they did for this film. I can see why it won.
Yeah.
I had trouble finding, like, a really good one that kind of gave the whole, like a big broad spectrum of the scenery, because a lot of the stuff was CGI, and I guess that is included in the category of production design, but I wanted to show like a real set, and I found this image, and I think it's an amazing set, so I'm glad I found it. And some of the other ones I didn't pick that were real sets are pretty incredible as well, so yeah, I can see why this one too.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like the design, everything that they use to create Wakanda is included in this award. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they made this fictional place, I mean, and again, with an underlying African theme, but also a very modern one, because Wakanda has very modern technology. So they blended these two types of design together, and that's Wakanda. Right. And so, again, much deserved.
Right. So the next category is Best Costume Design. And the nominees are
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Mary Zophres. Black Panther, Ruth E. Carter. The Favorite, Sandy Powell. Mary Poppins Returns, also Sandy Powell. And Mary Queen of Scots, Alexandra Byrne.
And the award goes to
Black Panther, Ruth E. Carter. Woohoo!
I'm seeing a trend here with Black Panther. Yeah.
Again, I mean, it's the same thing. The way that she created the costume design with a lot of African underlying themes, you can see a lot of different patterns in this picture that you have here. African patterns, along with like some modern design as well. I mean, she just really helped to create this world, and I was rooting for her, and I was really hoping that she was going to win, because she definitely deserved it for this as well.
Yeah, very original. Like, see, with these historical pictures, they just have to go back in history and look at what they were wearing.
Right.
And specifically with Mary Queen of Scots, they have documentation of what she wore and paintings and things. But with something like this, it's all out of the imagination. It's all original ideas. And so again, I feel like this was a deserved win.
Definitely.
So the next category is Best Animated Short Subject. And the nominees are
Animal Behavior, Allison Snowden and David Fine. Bow, Domi Shi. Late Afternoon, Louise Bagnall. One Small Step, Andrew Chesworth, Bobby Pontius. And Weekends, Trevor Jimenez.
And the Oscar goes to
Woohoo! Bow, Domi Shi.
That sounds like you're saying like a I'm happy or something, like in another language.
Maybe that's what her name means.
Maybe. Yeah, it was really nice. I actually did get to see this because for a limited time, Disney posted it on YouTube for anybody to see. Like, it was an official unbootleg, like official Disney high def full widescreen version of this, and I was able to see it, and I really enjoyed it. And it was a tearjerker. I feel like, again, I didn't see the other cartoons because I never even heard of them. Again, another proof of what I said earlier. But of course, I mean, not a lot of people are making animated shorts these days, so I feel like if you make one, you're likely to get nominated.
Right.
I mean, if it's any good at all. But anyway, I feel like, without discrediting the others that I haven't seen, I do feel like this was definitely a terrific short, and it definitely was Academy Award worthy.
Yes.
Without having seen the others to compare it to, I'm not upset that it won.
Right. And this is one of the Pixar shorts that was actually, directed by a woman.
Yes,
and
which is
she was the
good.
one who created this story. You know,
And an
it's
Asian American, which is good to see them being represented.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's good to see that Asian American families are being represented
Mm-hmm.
in the subject of the story as well, because they're very underrepresented in this country, and they are a huge part of our country and have been since the 19th century, and they're just sort of always overlooked. And it's good to finally have more recognition of minorities in this country because it's deserved. They're a part of
Yes.
our landscape, part of our
Mm-hmm.
culture as a whole. So, we wanted to mention some of the things that didn't win. And Ruthie, what are the other categories that Disney was nominated for but didn't take home an award?
I'll just go through the categories and then tell you which actually did win. So, Black Panther was also nominated for Original Song for All the Stars by
Right.
Kendrick Lamar and SZA, but the song that won was the song Shallow from A Star is Born by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
Not surprised.
He didn't write it, but Lady Gaga did write part of it, but they sung
And she
it together.
performed it in the movie
Right.
and at the Oscars.
Right, with Bradley Cooper, yeah.
Now, wasn't
So-
I thought that the song from Mary Poppins was nominated, but I don't see it on your
was.
list.
It is.
But it didn't win
The
either.
Place Where Lost Things Go, yeah, that didn't win.
Oh, yes, I see it on your list here. I
Yeah.
missed it. Yeah, so there were actually 2 Disney nominations for that category, and neither one took home the award. But I already knew that song was going to win because everybody loved that movie and loved Lady Gaga in it. So,
Yeah.
so what's the next one, Ruthie?
The next category that Black Panther was nominated in is sound editing,
Mm-hmm.
and that award actually went to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Not surprised there either.
Right, no.
Yeah.
And the same thing for the next one. So sound mixing, Black Panther was nominated, and that also went to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. Because that movie really is more about music and sound.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right. And well-deserved because Bohemian Rhapsody is an amazing movie.
I didn't see it, but I've heard about it and
Oh,
everything.
you got to. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I do like Queen, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Best Picture.
Yes. Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture, but did not win. The Green Book won.
I've never heard of it. Never heard of it. I don't know
I
what
have
it's about.
heard of it. I didn't see it, though.
I don't know what it's about. I don't know anything. That's my problem with the Oscars. It's like, what is this movie? I'm sure it's a terrific movie. I mean, it did win an Oscar.
Right.
But why didn't I hear about it?
Yeah. So
What's going
of the
on?
list of the 8 films that were nominated for Best Picture, I saw 4 of them.
I've heard of out of the list. I've heard of 1, 2, 3 of them. Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, and A Star is Born. The rest I have never heard of until now.
Yeah.
So then we've got animated feature, and
Yeah.
Disney had 2. What were the 2 that lost and what won?
So Disney had 2 movies nominated for Best Animated Feature. That was Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. But neither of them won because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won, which I figured that was going to happen.
Well, first of all, and I was talking to you about this yesterday, the fact that Disney had 2 nominations sort of split the vote, first of all.
Right.
And the other thing is, both of those movies are not original. They're sequels.
They're sequels, yeah.
So I feel like they lose major points for that.
Right.
Spider-Verse was more of even though it's based on an existing character, it was a completely original take on it. It was a new franchise. It wasn't cashing on an existing franchise. It was a new franchise of an existing franchise, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then the last one for visual effects, Disney had 3 nominees and none of them won.
Right. So they had Avengers Infinity War, Christopher Robin, and Solo: A Star Wars Story nominated in this category. But the movie First Man won. And I personally have seen every movie nominated in this category, and I do not think that First Man deserved this award because that movie actually probably had the least amount of visual effects compared to the other 4. Yeah. And I don't know why it won.
Popularity contest, that's why.
Yeah.
But
I guess.
Out of all of them, that's the only one I haven't heard of. But I did look up images for it to create the artwork for our show here. So I do kind of get the idea that it's about somebody who goes to space.
It's about Neil Armstrong landing on the moon.
All right. Well,
yeah.
the title makes sense now.
Right.
But, yeah, I knew it was about space travel just based on the artwork, but I didn't even know it was about Neil Armstrong. I guess I should have realized by the title, but I thought it might be science fiction, or I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't put it together. Anyway, one other thing we wanted to mention, Ruthie, what's that?
So, traditionally, the Oscars, they have all of the songs nominated for Best Original Song. They have live performances during the broadcast, and for the song "The Place Where Lost Things Go," Bette Midler actually performed it, and Mark Shaman, one of the songwriters, accompanied her on the piano. You can see him behind there in the picture, but I just thought that was really nice that I just thought it was really nice that she was able to perform it. Usually they try and get the original people, so they would have had asked Emily Blunt to perform as Mary Poppins, but this year, the Oscars was having some issues with, the live performances, and they were kind of vacillating.
I know. There was a little bit of controversy because they were saying how they weren't going to include all the songs.
Yeah.
And then,
And then they did. So, they decided they would, and then one of the Black Panther song that was nominated, All the Stars, they couldn't end up securing the artist to perform the song in time, so that song wasn't even performed.
Yeah, I know, because they just screwed it. They made a lot of screw-ups this year. They didn't even have a host, but that's a whole other story.
Right.
that we don't need to get into on this show. So let's move on to our
2019 Oscars for Disney.
Right. So let's move on to our next topic, and it's sort of a big one.
Yeah.
We thought it might be a good idea to bring you up to date on some of the goings-on in the Asian Disney parks. We talked about some of the stuff for Shanghai in an earlier episode. So we're mainly going to focus on, we're not going to talk about Shanghai at all. So we're only going to focus on Hong Kong and Tokyo and kind of give an update on what's recently happened and what's going to be happening in the years to come. What's on the drawing boards and what's being built in the parks overseas. So here is a map of Hong Kong Disneyland, and it's kind of turned onto its side. If you can kind of look at it from the right side, you see the orange area that's kind of pointing towards the left. That's Main Street, to give you a little orientation of how it's flipped on its side. Normally we would look at it from Main Street being at the bottom. But if you look, this map shows you all of the new attractions that are being built, or some, in one case, and we'll talk about that next, it's an attraction that already just recently opened. So there's lots of new stuff happening in Hong Kong, and it's needed because out of all the Disney parks, it's the smallest with the least amount of attractions, and it needs a little love, definitely. So the first thing we want to talk about is something that I just mentioned has already opened. It opened late last year, I think in November. And it's a brand new live stage show in a brand new theater that was built specifically for this stage show. And it's, what's it called, Ruthie, and what is it?
Well, it's called Moana's Village Festival, and it's an immersive storytelling entertainment show.
Right. And it's in a new theater called the Adventureland Showplace. And it's sort of like a retelling of a 20-minute Cliff Notes version of the Moana story with live actors, and it's all sorts of fun Polynesian music. And the one thing that's interesting is I did look at a video of it on YouTube, and it's presented in both English and Mandarin Chinese. So they'll which is a little distracting, to be honest. I would rather have it just all be in Mandarin, because I don't need to be told the story, because I do, because I haven't seen the movie. But if I had seen the movie,
right,
I would sort of know what was going on just based on the music and what the actors are doing. And I just find that having two languages is just so distracting.
Yeah, that just sounds like it would be.
Yeah, because they'll say part of it, and then they'll say the rest of it in Mandarin, and then it's and even the music, the lyrics go back and forth, and it's just what? A Polynesian story told in English and Mandarin Chinese. This is I'm having split personality disorder here. I don't know what this is. But that being said, it is a beautiful production visually, and of course the music is fantastic. And the theater, from what I've seen, is just amazing. The theming, it was really well designed and really well built. And of course it's got all that amazing tiki culture stuff that has come back into style lately. So it's a lot of fun. It's a terrific show from what I can see, other than the multilingual issue. But
yeah. I'm glad they have Moana represented in that park. Moana is an amazing movie. I love it. And so yeah, I'm glad that they have that, at least in Hong Kong. I mean, I can't go see it, but at least they offer something like that.
Right. So one other big thing that's going to happen very soon, they're already working on it, it's already under construction, is this is sort of a first for Disney. They've never done something like this. Take an existing landmark and redo it. And there's a lot of reasons why they decided to do this. First of all, of course, this is Sleeping Beauty's castle, which originally was an exact clone of the Disneyland castle in California. So I'm happy that there's only one castle now that's the Disneyland castle. It always sort of bothered me that there was a clone of it. I didn't like that. I'm cool with Cinderella Castle having two. That doesn't bother me. But for some reason, Walt's Castle, I feel like there should only be one. So that always sort of, in the back of my mind, kind of bothered me. But I never really complained about it, because I didn't figure there was a point. But I'm glad they're redoing it, even though I'm not 100% on board for the design. I'll have to see it when it's done to see how it really looks in real life, because this is this is just a concept drawing. But apparently they're just taking the castle that's already there and just kind of adding to it, which is interesting. Because if you look closely at the image, you can see all the Sleeping Beauty stuff is still there.
Oh, I can see it.
You see that everything from the castle is still there. They just sort of added a bunch of stuff on top and widened it a little bit and repainted it differently. So one reason I'm glad they redid the castle there is because of how they have those mountains in the background. And I feel like that little castle with the mountain, the mountains kind of made the castle look really small, even compared to how it appears in Disneyland. So I'm glad they made it taller so that it doesn't look so puny, because it just didn't work with those mountains behind it. I love how it has the mountains there. It's beautiful, but wrong castle.
Right.
So do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So the next thing that we wanted to talk about is something that's going to open very soon. And this is a second Marvel-themed attraction, I believe, to open in a Disney park. Well, no, because of in California Adventure, they have the tower.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So this would be the third, because the first was in the same park, which is actually right next door to this attraction, which was the Iron Man attraction, which is a flight simulator very close to Star Tours. And now they've built this new, it's about to open this new Ant-Man and Wasp dark ride, which is actually a replacement for what was the Buzz Lightyear attraction. So like the Buzz Lightyear attraction, it involves pointing guns and shooting at targets. But instead of Buzz Lightyear, everything is now going to be themed to Ant-Man. And this is an attraction that's going to involve screens, which I'm not a big fan of, as you all know. But it also is going to have a lot of three-dimensional elements as well. So it's kind of a combination of 3D effects and screens, animation, and they're actually having some of the actors from the film in the, they got Paul Rudd and what's the actress's name who plays the Wasp, Ruthie?
Evangeline Lilly.
Right. So both of them are going to be in it. And the concept art looks pretty amazing. Of course, I don't think it'll be really amazing, but I don't think it'll be quite as amazing as the concept art. I mean, it never is. The concept art kind of exaggerates. But in the case of, I've always found it interesting how the concept art does exaggerate, but in the case of Disney attractions, even though it is exaggerated, it's not that far off from what you actually get. Whereas with other things that they do concept art for, it is way better in the concept art than it is in the final product. But Disney hasn't had as much of a problem with this as other things.
Right.
So we wanted to show you a little preview video that Disney has put out to explain some of the goings-on with this attraction. And then I have a special little surprise that I added at the end. Are you ready, Ruthie, for the video?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Nano Battle is a story that's actually connected to Iron Man experience here at Stark Expo in Tomorrowland.
In that attraction, Hydra's attacking the Stark Tower in downtown Hong Kong to steal the arc reactor.
Nice work!
Not only is Arnim Zola attacking the Stark Tower, he's also infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Science and Technology Pavilion here at the Expo.
The S.H.I.E.L.D. Pavilion has a data core full of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s most valuable technology research. And Arnim Zola, the former Red Skull scientist, is attacking the pavilion to steal that information.
As guests enter the pavilion lobby, they realize the alarm of the building has gone off. All of the exhibitions of the day has been cancelled. The pavilion is under attack by Zola and his army of wombats.
Iron Man calls Ant-Man and the Wasp in because of their unique ability to shrink down and go inside these bots to blow them up from the inside.
Unfortunately, there's thousands of those bots, so even Ant-Man and the Wasp need a little help. They're going to call on our guests to help them to slow down the waves of bots so that together we can all save the data core.
Throughout the entire attraction, guests will see unique elements related to Hong Kong culture.
Going into battle, guests will be aboard the Defense Assault Rover, otherwise known as the Dagger. It's a specialized personnel carrier developed right here at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Science and Technology Pavilion.
And then they're going to be issued an EMP blaster. This is an electromagnetic device that allows them to disable Zola's bots when they hit them right in their weak spots. Guests will, of course, be helping Ant-Man and the Wasp to defeat Zola, but they'll also get to have fun competing with each other.
At Walt Disney Imagineering, we really want to craft a cinematic experience. So we use our latest 3D technology to create the highest fidelity show set we've ever created for an attraction like this.
For this specific attraction, we're bringing in interactivity, technology, a whole new way to deliver this story.
And to make it even better, we worked with Marvel Studios and Peyton Reed, the director of the film, to shoot Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly as Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly are just awesome, and I think we really enjoy watching them on screen, and now we're going to get to step into that world with them.
And they had so much fun doing this, and they were so excited when we pitched them the attraction. They couldn't wait to be a part of it.
So you're not just going to get to see them in this attraction, you're going to get to fight alongside them.
Guests will feel a real sense of accomplishment after defeating Zola's bots. Ant-Man and the Wasp couldn't have done it without them.
Hey guys, just finished shooting the Ant-Man and the Wasp attraction.
We've had so much fun filming it, but not as much fun as you'll have writing it. Now, we're not supposed to be talking about this. Spoilers.
Yeah, you know how Marvel is.
So we can neither confirm nor deny that this will be opening this year at Hong Kong Disneyland.
Yeah, and you may or may not be shrinking down and destroying stuff.
No, you've already said too much.
Right. Why are we whispering again?
Spoilers.
Of course. See you in Hong Kong.
So, Ruthie, have you bought your ticket for Hong Kong Disneyland yet?
I wish.
Well, what I think is cool, even though I'm not really a Marvel person, but what I do like about this is how they have an attraction that's already there, and they tied this attraction into the other attraction. And that's something I really love in the theme parks. And something they kind of have a lacking of nowadays, because every attraction seems to be its own thing nowadays. But I mean, when they originally designed a lot of these, they were all meant to complement each other. And so it's nice to bring that back again. I like that. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, I feel like there's too many Buzz Lightyears everywhere. I'm glad they have one place where it's the same type of experience but a different ride. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, every park has a Buzz Lightyear. And now this one has something different, so that's good too. Not dissing Buzz, I love Buzz, but it's just like enough already with the same attraction in every single park around the world.
Right. Yeah.
So you're the Marvel fan. What are your thoughts on all this?
I mean, I think this is awesome. I think the Iron Man experience attraction, it looks awesome too. I would love to go ride both of these rides. And so this one opens March 31st, so not that far away.
Yeah,
but I love Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is Paul Rudd. He plays Ant-Man. He is hilarious.
All I can think of
one of my favorite
whenever
actors.
I see him is Clueless.
Oh yeah,
like
I know.
That movie Clueless. Like, I just see him as like the older brother or whatever he was in Clueless. I can't get that out of my head. Everything he does, that's the first thing I think of.
You think of Clueless is
so
funny.
To see him like in a spaceman superhero suit is strange.
Yeah. He's just a great actor. He's really funny. I love his humor and how he brings that to every role. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think this is a really good addition to Hong Kong. It's going to draw people too, because it is the only Ant-Man attraction in any Disney park.
Right.
So, I think that's good too, to help bring more people to Hong Kong. So, yeah, I think this is great. It's on my bucket list.
Well, if I was going to go to any Disney park in Asia, I would probably go to Tokyo first.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing as that's probably not going to happen anytime soon unless I win the lottery, I'm probably not going to get to Hong Kong, because that's sort of third on my list out of the three. So, I mean, you never know what life will bring you, but I probably will never get to see this in person, and I'm okay with that, because I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but I still appreciate it and think that it's nice to bring new stuff to the parks, especially a park like this that really needs it. Mm-hmm. And another big new project that's currently underway is they're going to add a whole section to their Fantasyland, which is going to be Arendelle. It's a whole frozen village. And they're going to have a frozen attraction, which is probably going to be similar to the one they have at Epcot, but because they're not overlaying an existing ride system and an existing attraction, I'm sure it'll be a lot different, and it'll probably be a lot better, because they're not building around something that was not designed for this specific thing. They can start from the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, what's interesting is they're building this also at Tokyo Disney Sea, so I'm wondering if they're just going to sort of be exact clones of each other or exactly what the plan is. From the artwork I've seen, they look identical. Everything seems to be sort of exactly the same, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So the last thing we want to mention about Hong Kong is how, even though Ant-Man is opening in a month, they actually have a long-term plan to completely redo their whole Tomorrowland area. They're actually going to add even more Marvel-themed attractions. So they're sort of going to move away from the whole Tomorrowland idea and turn it into a Marvel land over time. So they're sort of on phase 2 right now. Phase 1 was Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 2 is getting rid of the Buzz Lightyear and replacing it with the Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I'm not exactly sure what the other attractions are going to be. They might be the same ones that they're planning for California Adventure.
Right.
They probably are. But this is going to open in a few years.
Yeah.
So their whole Tomorrowland area is going to be redone over time. So let's move on to Tokyo Disneyland. Tokyo Disneyland, as much as Hong Kong is getting a lot of new stuff, Tokyo, it's almost like they're building a whole new Tokyo Disneyland with all the stuff they're adding. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty unbelievable, actually. Mm-hmm. And not only is the Magic Kingdom getting a whole new Fantasyland and a totally revitalized Tomorrowland, but Disney Sea is getting a whole new port. Now, they call their lands ports. So each port has a theme to it. They've got a Mediterranean port, which is Italian, Venice themed. They have a Middle Eastern area with an Aladdin carousel. They have a Jules Verne port. So all these ports have, they have the American waterfront. So this Newport, I live near Newport in Rhode Island. This Newport is gonna be, it hasn't been given an official name yet, but it's basically gonna be a fantasy theme. So everything in this port will have a fantasy motif, and it's gonna be actually divided into 3. The port is gonna have 3 sublands that are all themed, but we'll get into that in a minute. First, we want to talk about some of the other stuff that's going to be opening sooner. And the first thing that is new that will be opening is opening very shortly. What's the opening date for this, Ruthie? It's
July 23rd, 2019.
Yeah,
so this summer.
A couple months away. So this is going to be in that Mediterranean section, which is Italian themed in Disney Sea. Now, I think that's terrific because they do have a outdoor attraction, which is you can ride a gondola around, which is something they need to put in Epcot in their Italy pavilion. But that being said, it's nice to have a good e-ticket attraction in that land because this is really the only land that didn't have one. All the other lands have, big e-tickets, or ports, I should say, but this one was missing its e-ticket. So I'm happy about that. And I love how so what this is the Soarin', or Soarin' Around the World, but it's been given a whole new theming, which is, 19th century Italy, and it's like some sort of an exhibition. There's a backstory to it, Ruthie. Do you have that? You want to read that to the audience?
So the attraction is called Soarin' Fantastic Flight. So this is not the same version that you would see at California Adventure in Disneyland or Walt Disney World at Epcot. This is a new movie. And it's kind of based around the idea of the dream of flying, fantastic flight, aviation, things like that. So there's a museum of fantastic flight, which houses the attraction.
Right.
And so you walk around the museum.
An exhibition to show the new invention.
Right. And then it celebrates Camelia Falco, a visionary innovator in fledgling field of aviation. So this is the beginning of aviation. So back, in the early 1900s.
Or late 1800s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you tour the museum, and then you visit a magical visit from the spirit of Camelia. Mm-hmm. And it culminates in this attraction, her greatest achievement, which is the design called Dream Flyer.
Right. Which is basically the exact same vehicles that they use for soaring around the world, but it's got a steampunk design element added to it, as you can see from the poster. And like this whole thing is sort of the whole steampunk thing. But I just love how they rethemed it and gave it a new... But I read that they are going to use a lot of the footage that they did film for Soarin' Around the World, but they're putting in extra new footage exclusive. So there's going to be a tour around the world like Soarin' Around the World, but they're adding elements that are exclusive to this version. So I loved Soarin' Around the World when I wrote it. I thought it was terrific. I was a little frightened at the beginning because I had never experienced this before. But after I got used to it, I enjoyed it. And, this is great. I love this. I think they're putting it in the perfect spot. I love the theming. It's gorgeous from what I've seen. I mean, look at all the detail in this.
I know. It's going to be very popular there, too.
Oh, yeah. And they need more e-tickets because that park is busting at the seams. So it'll be great that it's opening this summer. So it'll relieve some of the summer crowd. So, that's what's opening most recent. Another thing they're working on is actually Disneyland, which is the Magic Kingdom style park, is getting a brand new entrance to relieve some of the crowding that happens at the ticketing area when you first enter the parks. So they're kind of redoing the turnstiles, adding additional ticket booths, and just kind of making it more high capacity, crowd friendly. And this is a artist rendering of how the new area will look when you first enter the ticket area. If you look really closely in this image, you can see the ticket booths behind this structure. So you kind of go underneath this little canopy type structure, and then behind it will be the rows of ticket booths, and then behind that will be the actual entrance where you walk into that big building. They don't have a train station. They have like this big fancy building. That'll be like behind the ticket
like
booths.
The World Bazaar.
Yeah. That'll be like, you can't see it in this picture because it's too far back, but so you'll kind of go through there, then you'll go to the ticket booths, then you'll go to the turnstiles, and then eventually 5 years later you'll be in the park. But after you go through all these stages. But yeah, I think that looks beautiful.
Picture. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It has a Plaza Inn feel to it.
It does. At first I thought, am I looking at the Plaza Inn or am I looking at or the it looks more like the Plaza Pavilion actually.
Yeah.
The one on the other, which is the Jolly Holiday Bakery.
Yeah. So I mean, it fits right in with the aesthetic. So I think it looks great.
So this will be opening next year. It's already under construction. They're actually letting people in a half hour early to the park because the construction is sort of making it more difficult to get in. So it's kind of ironic that they're trying to alleviate some of the crowding, but in building this, they're creating a worse bottleneck.
Right.
Eventually, when it's done, it'll be great. But for now, they're actually opening the gates up early so that it's not as crazy when the park first opens. So later in 2020, they're actually going to be opening up the long-anticipated Beauty and the Beast dark ride, including the new Fantasyland expansion, which is going to be a whole new Beauty and the Beast area, which is going to include, it's going to be similar to what they have in their little Beauty and the Beast area in Florida. But one thing is they're going to have the full-size castle. They're not going to have a little puny castle up on the hill that when you ride the train from behind the park, you can see that it's on a warehouse, because they did a terrible job covering all that up. I mean, you can see from the train. So, like, finish the back of it.
Yeah.
That really annoyed me, by the way. In fact, I mentioned this before on a different show we did, but just to reiterate, I notice it because I am looking for those things, because that's what I do when I go to the Disney parks. Obviously, I'm a huge fan and into all that. There was just like a random family sitting next to me on the train, and they're like, what is that? Are they building something back here? Like, they noticed it.
Right.
And that really made me angry. That it's not just something that I notice because I'm nitpicky. It's like the average guest is noticing it too.
Right.
It wasn't under construction. It was the finished product that they just didn't bother to theme from behind, even though the train can see it. But I'm going off on a tangent. Let's stick to the topic.
Yeah.
So, the whole Fantasyland redo, which we've already talked about in detail, it's going to include Gaston's Tavern, a full-size castle, and shopping, and it's not going to have the Beauty and the Beast restaurant, but it's going to have, the Gaston is going to be not like a snack bar as much as it is in Florida. It's going to be more of a sit-down restaurant from what I've kind of been led to believe. I could be wrong. And it's going to be called La Taverne de Gaston, and it's going to be more of a sit-down. So I guess they figure because the attraction is inside the castle, it might be redundant to have a restaurant in the same place, which you've already just rode through. Like,
yeah,
it's like you have, so you have two ballrooms now? What's going on? Because you actually go through the ballroom on the ride, so I understand why they left the ride out. I mean, the restaurant out.
Right. To me, this restaurant sounds kind of a little bit like classier, but kind of on the Pecos Bill kind of a level, you know.
Really?
So it's like a quick service, but like you get the feel of you're eating in a tavern, you know. So I don't feel like it's going to be like, but I don't feel like it's going to be like Be Our Guest, where, you know, it's like a, you know, really a deluxe restaurant kind of a experience.
So also in the Fantasyland area, they're building a brand new theater. This is a picture of the entrance into the theater. It's going to be called Fantasyland Forest Theater. And this is actually the first indoor theater in Tokyo Disneyland. We don't know much about what they plan on presenting in the theater when it opens. But it's interesting because Tokyo Disneyland, they love their live stage shows. I mean, they've got more live stage shows than any other park. I mean, like, every land has a theater.
Yeah.
They've got one in Adventureland. They've got an outdoor theater in Frontierland. They've got one in Tomorrowland. They had one in Fantasyland, I believe, but they're getting rid of it because of the expansion of this Fantasyland. But they're not getting rid of the theater. They're just building a new one in its place.
Yeah.
So that's more themed to the area that it's in, which is like, God forbid they get rid of one of their 18 theaters
right.
in the park.
What do they do? Well, one of them is closed.
Well, the thing is, and they actually you have to do a lottery to even see the shows. Yeah. Because it's so crowded. A lot of people don't get to see all the shows because they're so popular, and they're for lack of a better word, because you don't have to pay extra for them, but they're sold out.
Right.
Standing room only.
But they're high-class shows, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, they put a lot of work into them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, another nice thing that I'm happy about is because they had to take out a chunk of Tomorrowland to accommodate the new Fantasyland expansion. They took out their Grand Prix / Autopia type attraction, and they took out their rocket jets.
Mm-hmm.
They had to take those 2 attractions out, but they're making up for it by adding some really cool new stuff to Tomorrowland, including this, which is a Baymax type ride, which is similar to Madar's Junkyard Jamboree in California and the Alien Saucers that just recently opened in Toy Story Land at Disney World. And apparently, I didn't know this, but there's a Woody's Roundup attraction in Shanghai Disneyland that I didn't even know about until we did the research for this. But apparently it's the same idea. It's these whip-around spinning vehicles. And I guess from the picture, Baymax is driving all of them. And then you're in the back on a separate cart. So it seems weird to have the same character everywhere. But I guess Dumbo is the same thing. There's like 12 Dumbos, so. Anyway, this is sort of nice because it's taking up the capacity probably that Rocket Jets once had. It probably has about the same capacity level that Rocket Jets has. So it's good that they've replaced it with something rather than just... See, that's what I love about Tokyo. They don't take out, they just keep adding and adding, and when they do take out, they usually put something even better in its place. So, I mean, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I know.
So another fun thing they're adding in their Tomorrowland is this whole popcorn place. What's it called?
The Big Pop.
Oh, yeah. And it's just gonna have all sorts of popcorn flavors and buckets, and I mean, if you think the lines are bad to get the new buckets at Disneyland,
yeah,
people wait for hours in I almost said Hong Kong, in Tokyo. And like, this is a big deal. It's as much as of a big deal as it is in the States. It's even bigger there, and times 10.
Also,
so really,
their popcorn buckets are amazing.
And they're even better
amazing
than ours.
Designs.
Yeah. And like, this is something needed. I mean, it's a good way to kind of calm down the frenzy at these outdoor venues by having an indoor place to... I'm sure it's going to be not as pleasant as the picture. Like, oh, just a few people hanging around.
Well, no,
rush.
because it's going to be packed with people nonstop.
Yeah, like you won't even be able to see any of the theming.
Right.
It'll just be people everywhere. But so the other thing that's fun is, and we've talked about this before, is Minnie Mouse is getting her own meet and greet area in Toontown, which is going to be like a... What is it? A nail parlor, or what is it? It's like a beauty salon.
A mini style studio, yeah.
Right. So I guess you go in and get styled up, and then you get to meet Minnie and take a picture with her. It's nice that she finally gets her own meet and greet, so you can always find her at specific times. That's never happened before. You've always had that opportunity with Mickey, but not with Minnie. So it's nice that she gets her place in the sun, because there's a lot of Minnie fans out there too. I know, Ruthie, you would be happy to have this in the States.
Definitely.
So you could specifically
I want to meet Minnie.
Yeah, so you don't have to just have a chance encounter. You can always depend on meeting her when you want to and getting a picture with her. So the other thing that we've already talked about, and there's very little information about it, we know that it's going to be for those who are only listening, I should say, it's the Toy Story Hotel.
Right.
And from what I understand, this is going to be Tokyo Disney's first, almost not discount, but like, I almost said low rent, like low cost hotel.
Right.
I mean,
it's the All-Star hotels.
Like the All-Stars, yeah. And they have this in Shanghai already. And and it's sort of the same price point as the All-Stars as is, so I have a feeling it's going to be very close to what they've already built in Shanghai. But I don't know that for sure. But that's going to open in 2021. And it's good that Disney's finally opening, because all the resorts, the Disney resorts in Tokyo, are all like 5-star.
Oh my gosh, yeah. High class.
There's
Yeah.
really no place for somebody on a budget to stay. So it's nice that they're adding this for families that aren't, millionaires.
Right.
That's basically the only money people could afford. There must be a lot of millionaires if they can. But anyway, they can fill those rooms.
Yeah.
Here's an overview of what we were talking about earlier, which is the Tokyo Disney Sea expansion. And if you look closely, you can see all three themed areas, plus a new hotel. On the left, you can see is the Frozen area. It's gonna, I think, be an exact copy of what they're doing in Hong Kong. Then in the middle, if you look really closely, you can see Rapunzel's Tower. They're going to have a whole Rapunzel area. Then a little bit more to the right, you can see Captain Hook's pirate ship and Skull Rock. They're going to have a Neverland area. And then on the far right is a little look at the hotel. And this is going to be a hotel inside the park. And this is going to be the first time that Disney has 2 hotels inside one park. Yeah, because they've already got the Miracosta Hotel at the entrance to Disney Sea, which is an Italian-themed, Venice-themed hotel. And this hotel is going to be fantasy-themed. Let's get into the weeds and go into a little bit more detail on what each of these sections is going to include. So, Ruthie, there's actually 4 new attractions planned for these themed areas. So what specifically is planned for the Arendelle section, which is the Frozen themed section?
Well, it says a new attraction will take guests by boat to experience the story of Elsa and Anna. So that sounds just like the Frozen Ever After at Epcot.
Yeah, at Epcot.
But again, like you said,
right,
they're not fitting it into a building. It'll be a building that they build for the attraction. So it'll. And
I have a feeling it'll be a clone of whatever they're doing in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Right. But I think it'll be probably longer, a little more scenes, because that attraction is actually pretty short.
Right.
So, and then they're gonna have a new restaurant that's located inside the Arendelle Castle. So that's pretty cool. So that's kind of like Be Our Guest.
Oh, really? I thought... Oh, no. Never mind. That's the Tangled. So, yeah. So this will be Tokyo's Disneyland's version of Be Our Guest. Yeah. And I'm sure when you're in the castle, like the one in Florida, they've got to have snow outside the windows because it's frozen, obviously. And I'm thinking, like, if you look out the windows, you'll see Elsa's ice castle outside.
Oh, that would be really cool.
With snow all around. Yeah. I'm already imagineering it.
I know, right?
And of course, they're going to have meet and greets with Elsa and Anna.
Of course.
Do you remember? You remember when they first had Elsa and Anna in the parks? How crazy it was! Like 5-hour waits to see them. It was insane. It's calmed down a little bit, but it's still pretty popular.
No, it's still they're still really popular. So.
They built a whole new area in Epcot just for the meet and greet. But in between Mexico and Norway, there's a new Anna and Elsa meet and greet area, which is actually very pretty. But I mean, all you do is meet them there. There's no rides or anything there.
Right.
So the next area, which I almost gave away, the secrets, because there's a restaurant here too, based on the movie. But this is going to be the Tangled area, and of course, it's going to include Rapunzel's Tower. And this is also going to... There are a lot of boat rides in this new area.
Right, I know, right?
It's going to have a boat ride. Now, I'm guessing this. I don't know for sure. But from the way they described it, I think this is going to be different than the one in the Frozen section. The Frozen section. The Frozen food section. Yeah. No. In the Frozen area, because I think this is going to be an outdoor-indoor experience. Even though it's not... I think because the way they call it gondolas,
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna kind of go around the general area of the land, and then at some point it'll go inside a cave, and then they'll have the lanterns indoors so that they can be seen. So they're gonna replicate the whole lanterns. And the other thing is, I don't think this is gonna be a cliff notes of the movie. I think this is gonna be more of just an experience based on the name of the attraction. It's gonna be called Best Day Ever. So it's not going to be like, okay, at the first scene we see Mother Gothel kidnap Rapunzel. The next scene we see, it's not going to go through the movie. It's just going to show like beautiful scenery. It's going to be kind of just more of an environment. Whereas the Frozen is going to be more of a retelling of the story in an abridged way.
Yeah.
So the third area... Oh, and we didn't mention the restaurant, which is like I've been going on about it the whole time, and then I skip over it. They're going to have that funny tavern from the film, which is making up for the... It's like they're... This is why I'm thinking one of them's got to be sit-down, and one of them's got to be like... That's why I think the one in Disneyland is going to be sit-down to differentiate from this version, because this I'm seeing more of being like a... Pecos Bill, because they've got the sit-down restaurant next door at Frozen, so this is going to be more of a, so that's why and neither of us have any inside information, and we're only guessing all of this, but I just have a feeling the one in Hong Kong is going to be a sit-down, like, more formal in Hong Kong. In Disneyland, Tokyo, in the Magic Kingdom Park, we're in the Beauty and the Beast area, which is Gaston themed, which is virtually the same theming as this. Is going to be a sit down. So they don't have two of the exact same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now,
I mean, I'm just picturing like wooden benches, and nobody really wants to sit at a wooden bench, at a sit down restaurant. So I
think they can make it more of like a steakhouse and make it nice, but
that's true.
Rustic, but still formal. So anyway, the last themed area is a recreation of Neverland. So again, they're going to have Peter Pan's flight in Fantasyland, and then a whole nother Neverland. I wish they could have put this in... it would have been better if they could have put this in Fantasyland and then put the Beauty and the Beast in this area.
Right. Yep. Because then it would have been like three princesses.
Yeah. It would have
like
made
their
more
lands
sense.
all together. Yeah.
But you have the nose right on it. They figured if we're going to have all this princess stuff, we got to have stuff for the boys too. So that's probably why they're adding this, because it's more pirates and adventure and Captain Hook and things boys are more apt to be into. So anyway, this is going to include, just like the original Disneyland had the Captain Hook pirate ship and Skull Rock. Of course, that's going to be there. And then what else is going to be in Neverland, Ruthie?
So they're going to have two new attractions and a restaurant. So the restaurant is inspired by the Lost Boys hideout. So that actually sounds very similar to the hideout in the Rapunzel area. But maybe like a little bit more juvenile.
I think it'll have more of a tropical theme.
Yeah.
Remember the hideout in Peter Pan? It was like they were inside a tree. So it'll be more organic and have nooks and crannies everywhere. So it's like I'm thinking like Rainforest Cafe kind of a thing.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. So, and then the first attraction just sounds like Peter Pan's flight. Guests fly over the jungles of Neverland with Peter Pan to rescue Wendy's younger brother John and battle with Captain Hook.
I heard I watched a video about this, and they said that it might be some sort of a boat ride / at first you think you're on a boat, but then it ends up flying. So it's gonna be like some sort of a weird new vehicle that changes from a boat to a flying apparatus somehow.
Well, that'd be kind of cool.
So that's how
it would be nice to put a new spin on the Peter Pan's flight.
So that's how it's going to be different from Peter Pan's flight. And you're not going to fly over London either, like in Peter Pan's flight, just Neverland. So
yeah, okay.
And it's going to be more of a story and less of just like experiential. Like, I feel like Peter Pan's Flight is also more of just an experience. It's not really trying to tell the story.
Right.
It's just kind of showing you the beautiful scenery of that story.
Yeah, it's just like vignettes.
Yeah, but this is going to be more of trying to tell an actual beginning, middle, end story.
So like you go on an adventure with them.
Right, and I think the story is going to be an original story involving the characters from the way this is described, because John doesn't get in a battle with Captain Hook in the movie, so...
Right.
I mean, he does in a way, but it's with all the other Lost Boys, but this sounds more like a new story, so...
Well, that'd be good if they do that. The second attraction is going to be immersing guests in the world of Pixie Hollow, where Tinkerbell and her fairy friends live.
So it's basically going to be the exact same thing that's in Disneyland. It might be bigger because there's more space, a little more immersive. But it's basically a meet and greet with beautiful scenery and
they're
lighting.
calling it an attraction, so it's got to be more than a meet and greet.
I don't know. I feel like they're just calling it an attraction because it's sort of a walkthrough experience. Because there will be little things to see as you walk through the queue area. I mean, it's an attraction in the same way Swiss Family Treehouse is an attraction. It's like a walkthrough type experience. You know what I mean? It's not like... But anyway, that's, again, I might be wrong. I have no idea. I'm just basing it on my own preconceived, clouded judgment.
Yeah.
The antiquated ideas.
That's what you get here in this show, folks.
Yeah. Just complete hogwash.
Yeah.
Anyway, the last thing we should talk about is the new hotel, which looks absolutely gorgeous, amazing, and it's going to be themed to fantasy. And it definitely looks pretty fantasy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, very beautiful. I love that little, I don't know what that is, but it's cut off on the side, but on the right-hand side, it's got this weird kind of, it almost looks like a circus wagon type design. And it looks like it has big stained glass windows in it. I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
Is that some sort of a restaurant, or?
Who knows? They are going to have 2 restaurants.
Right. So this is going to hold over 400 wealthy guests. Because it's called deluxe and luxury guest rooms.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I'll never be staying there. I'll be lucky if I can walk through the lobby. They'll probably kick me out because I'm not hoity-toity enough for them.
I know, right?
That's how I felt when I went through the Grand Floridian when I went last year. I went through the lobby and everybody was like wearing a suit and like it was very formal, and I just like I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts and I was all sweaty. Yeah, I was all sweaty from being in the parks. I just went to check it out, and everybody there looks like they're going to a wedding, and I felt like I was just like in the wrong place. Yeah. Anyway, let's go to our final story for tonight. You ready, Ruthie?
Yep.
Tonight's the night of Mickey Mouse's premiere, and every star in Hollywood will be here. Mickey's great big celebration is the talk of all the nation. Just hear those people cheer. They're giving Mickey Mouse a grand ovation. His picture's going to be a big sensation. Picture stars, movie queens, high silk cast, limousines. Hollywood is on parade.
Hello, everybody, how do you do? Mickey Mouse is showing something new. A wonderful picture we're going to see. Magnificent, stupendous, it's colossal.
We like Mickey and his happy smile. He will have us rolling in the aisle.
So hello, everybody, we wish you were here at Mickey Mouse's grand premiere.
Bring me the lamp. Your life begins now. Aladdin?
You really don't know who I am. Genie, wishes, lamb, none of that ringing a bell.
You got a friend in me. Wow, this place is amazing.
Wasn't Buzz gonna meet us here?
He must be held up somewhere.
Hey, up here, Astro Boy.
If you think you can take our top prize spot, you're wrong.
Dead wrong.
Help me get out of here. I'll help you.
With my foot. Wow! Yeah! How you like that, Cheetah? Oh, to infinity and my foot! Boom! In the vacuum of space, they cannot hear you scream! Oh.
Well, we just showed you 3 trailers for 3 upcoming movies this year. And there's been a lot of controversy about the Aladdin trailer.
Yeah.
And specifically the Genie. And it's not because it's Will Smith, even though I have some personal issues with anybody playing that role other than Robin Williams. So, unfortunately, Will Smith gets to be my source of my hatred because he's filling Robin Williams' shoes, and really for no other reason other than that, because I do like Will Smith. Yeah. But the problem people have is with the awful CGI. Mm-hmm. It looks terrible. It looks like it's from 2000. I mean, it looks like the dancing baby.
Right.
Remember that from the 90s?
Ally McBeal?
Yes. Ooga chaga.
Yeah.
Ooga chaga.
Yeah, that's a scary baby.
For Disney to put something out like that is shameful. Mm-hmm. It looks the way he moves looks like Saturday morning animation. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I can't, is this are they gonna fix that? Or is that what we're getting?
I've heard that the animation, the CGI is not done on the Genie yet.
Well, then don't show it.
I don't know why they would choose to release a clip of it if it's not done.
Or just finish that little tiny bit that you're going to show.
Right.
Is that a big deal? They showed 5 seconds of them. They couldn't fix the 5 seconds so that it looks better?
Right.
What are they doing over there with their billion-dollar budgets?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, the movie looks... one thing I found interesting was the whole Prince Ali. They show like a really quick second of the parade.
Yeah,
and that
like
looked...
a sky view of it, yeah.
Yeah, and that looked really amazing and beautiful. I mean, maybe I'll just, like, go for that part, and then when that's over, I'll leave.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was Jafar that we were hearing in the clip, telling Aladdin to go into the cave. Who is that actor? That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I don't know what it sounds like. It sounds like somebody who is not evil, or sounds like, hello, friend, go into the cave, enjoy yourself.
Let me bring you into my cave.
Yeah, it doesn't sound menacing or anything. I don't know. I hope that's not Jafar. I really hope that is some other character saying that. But I have a feeling it is, because he says the lines that Jafar would say. So, that's not fun.
Yeah.
So, what are your other takeaways from the trailer?
Yeah, I was not excited. And I mean, I will go see this because I am still I still want to see what all of the talk is about. But I'm not excited. These trailers aren't getting me excited like a trailer is supposed to.
Usually I'm the one who's not excited,
right?
And you're excited about anything Disney has coming out. But for you to say you're not excited, and you're a diehard when it comes to the new Disney movies, that's saying something.
Right. Yeah. This is not, these bits and pieces that they're giving me, it's not making me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
It's like Chef Boyardee is not excited about eating spaghetti. It's the same. That's the same as Ruthie saying she's not excited about a Disney movie.
Right.
That normally doesn't happen.
Right. I know, it's true. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But
so Good Morning America recently showed a little teeny sneak peek at the new Toy Story 4. So let's check that out.
Okay.
Situation?
Lost toy, side yard.
Billy, Goat, Gruff, raise the blinds.
You have names? You never told me that.
You never asked. Where is he?
There. How do we reach him?
Operation Pull Toy.
Slink? You got it, Woody.
Barbies.
This clip, even though it's really short, is amazing. And I was like, when they first talked about Toy Story 4, I was like, oh goodness, not again.
Yeah.
But after seeing all these little clips and things, and when they had the spoon thing, I was like,
yeah,
oh,
the spork.
No. What is this? That did not impress me. But now that I've seen the Keenan and Peele clip and now this clip here, now I'm actually pretty excited to see this stuff, because it's like it seems like they've added a lot of new elements, and it's not so much a rehash.
Yeah.
And maybe it's gonna be good. And I've heard they've done a lot of rewrites to perfect it. Especially, we want to talk a little bit about the new Bo Peep.
Yeah.
A new look. She's taking it to the streets. She's like Wonder Woman. She's got like her. Don't mess with her.
She's got a cape.
Don't mess with her.
That.
I know. And don't mess with her crook. She'll.
Nope.
So
it's like a whole new level of Bo Peep.
Yeah, it's like Superwoman Bo Peep. So
yeah.
We actually, it was fun. We read a little interview that Annie Potts gave, and believe it or not, folks, I didn't know that Annie Potts was the voice of Bo Peep. I didn't really pay much attention because her character was always so, like, minor. So I was never really paying attention to her. And I didn't even really notice she wasn't in the third one until, like, people said afterwards, where was Bo Peep?
Right.
But apparently, she is gonna be like the main character in this new one. Like she's gonna be, the whole plot is gonna be around her character. And they sort of, when Annie Potts was told that she wasn't gonna be in Toy Story 3, they told her, don't worry, because we have big plans for 4. So, Annie Potts gave an interview, and also we read some of the unknown things about 10 things that we didn't know about Bo Peep. So, the whole movie is going to be about her relationship with Woody. Now, you know how Jessie and Buzz kind of had a thing, and then there was a love triangle, and eventually she ended up with Woody in the end? I think what's going to happen, and I'm only guessing, is I think that Jessie's going to end up going back with Buzz, and Woody's going to end up with Bo Peep. So they'll both have their girlfriends. That's just me guessing. Another person speculated, and this is just total fan fiction, but they said, what if Bo Peep is the villain?
Oh, gosh.
But we don't know. I mean, that's just complete, like, made-up stuff. Nobody knows that.
Please don't let that be true.
And I don't think that's going to happen. Of course, I didn't know that pink bear was going to be the villain. That kind of threw me off.
Lots of...
Yeah, right. So anyway, Annie Potts is coming back. She has a new look. She still has her crook.
Yep.
And she's changed. She's grown as a person, as a toy. And she has more of a well-rounded, in-depth character. She's not just some one among many toys in the toy box. She's got a full-rounded personality in this film. And that one line at the beginning of the clip where she names her sheep, and Woody says, I didn't know they had names, and she says, you never asked me. That kind of sums up the whole this whole movie in a nutshell. We never really thought about Bo Peep, and now we're getting all the backstory.
Yeah. Yep. I think this is great. I mean, it's great to actually concentrate on a character who we've seen in previous movies, but you know, like you said, she was never really in the forefront, and now they're going to bring her up to the same level as, you know, Woody and Buzz and Jessie, you know, and I think that's awesome to explore her story. Also, like, they all now live at Bonnie's house. How is she going to find them? How does she know where they are?
Yeah,
we're going to find out all about that.
How do they discover each other?
Right.
I saw another poster of her that I think was leaked. It wasn't supposed to be seen, because I read several places that says it was leaked, but in the poster, she sort of has that Kill Bill kick pose on the poster, so she's like she's got some karate going on or something.
So she's feisty now.
Some martial arts going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to go with the story, you know, and it's really, you know, focusing on, you know, the unsung character of Toy Story. So this is great.
Now
I'm excited about this.
I had heard about this a long time ago, that they were going to answer the question, what happened to Bo Peep in the 4th installment. So that did not come as a surprise. But her look did.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were going to make her more of a strong character, unless, like, I'm little Bo Peep and I lost my sheep, you know, nursery rhyme character. So
yeah,
that'll be fun. Now let's talk
that
about...
clip that you just played was just so Toy Story to me, so I'm really excited about that.
I love the Barbies.
I know.
I was like, oh, and I was saying how when I was first watching it, I forgot that Andy doesn't own the toys anymore. They're Bonnie's toys, and they've moved. So it was like I had to, like, remember. Like, at first it's like, what are all these Barbies and all these girl toys? And then I remembered, oh yeah, this is Bonnie's room now that they're in.
Yeah.
So anyway, Frozen 2. So we were talking about this while the video was running. So I guess we should say again what we said off.
I know.
off camera, as it were. So anyway, one thing that's interesting about the clip is we don't know what the heck is going on. It looks cool, but they don't explain any of it. Like the whole thing with her running through the ocean and turning into ice, what is that about? We were speculating, or at least I was, that maybe the ocean is involved somehow because the story might be about them rescuing their parents, because their parents were lost at sea in the first movie. Maybe they didn't die, maybe they're still alive, but they have to be rescued. So that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
And why it's ocean. But another thing is there's a lot of fall elements, a lot of like falling leaves and stuff like that. So my question is, how is that going to be involved? And then Ruthie, what did you point out about the reindeer?
Yeah, so there was like a quick clip of Sven, and he has like a whole group of reindeer behind him.
And the other thing that I'm looking at this picture right now, why is Olaf not melting? Did they do something special to him so he no longer melts?
Yeah, maybe she cast like a winter bubble, an invisible winter bubble around him.
So what if they do a scene where he actually does get to experience summer?
Yeah. Oh, that would be so cute. That would be a good like end credit scene. Oh my gosh, that would be so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, this trailer, this is what a trailer is supposed to be. Like literally, this trailer has no talking, no dialogue.
Spoilers.
All it is scenes and music, and you don't know what is going on. Where in the lives of these characters are they? Yeah. What's going on with them? You don't know anything about it, and it's just so intriguing. And I'm really excited about this too.
Yeah, I'm semi-excited. I'm not a big Frozen person, unless it's frozen pizza. But I do appreciate where they're going with this. And the visuals are stunning, so...
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll see it at some point. Probably not in the theater, but... I'm glad they're doing this. As long as they're gonna do a sequel, it looks like they're not cutting corners and they're really making it something worthy of Disney, so that's good.
The one thing that I wish is that it wasn't called Frozen 2. That it actually had a name. But maybe there's still a chance.
They had Frozen Ever After. What about Frozen Ever After the After of the Ever?
Something like that. Something else.
Not something like that, Ruthie.
The only thing I can think of is maybe they do have a name for it, but they don't want to release it because it spoils the story. So maybe that's why they're just calling it Frozen 2. But I just feel like Frozen 2, it's like Incredibles 2. It's just so uninvented.
Frozen 2, Olaf's Revenge.
Yeah. Something like that.
Frozen 2.
Even like
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Return to Frozen or something like that. Even that would be better than Frozen 2.
Or Frozen 2, Escape from Arendelle.
Yeah. Or you could just call it Frozen Escape from Arendelle.
If you want a fun assignment, go to our Facebook group, which you should be all members of.
Yes.
Just look for Jiminy Cricket's podcast. And give us all of your sequel names for Frozen.
Yeah.
And if
what would you call it instead of Frozen 2?
If you come up with any funny ones, or you can leave it in the comments section of this video too, which is another good place.
Yeah.
Or you could comment on it over at Roarbots. But let us know what your sequel names are, and if we get enough funny ones, we'll read them on the next show.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's a good way to get everybody involved. So yeah, that's cool.
So, let's get going, Ruthie. It's time for Rapid Fire.
Let's do it.
So, we've got 3 stories this week in our Rapid Fire, and the first one is a tasty one.
Yes.
It's a yummy one, and it involves one of my favorite things, ice cream.
So, I thought this was a good story because, Disneyland is really known for their really unique treats, and finally Disney World is actually getting some. So that's why I wanted to pick this story and kind of focus on these really cool things that they're offering now at the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. So there's 3 different cones that they just introduced, and they're themed to the areas where they're sold. So there's one in Tomorrowland, one in Fantasyland, and one in Adventureland, and they're themed to 3 different recent Disney movies that tie into those lands. So what's the obvious, the Tomorrowland one, pretty much anybody can tell what that's themed to, right?
Right. It's called Adventure is Out There, themed to the movie Up.
Yeah.
And that's a blue sugar cone topped with mango soft serve and a candy balloon piece. And this candy balloon piece is actually a layer of white chocolate holding together fruit-flavored candy balls.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
The article I read said that you gotta be careful with this one because it's all one piece, and if the cone starts to melt a little bit, it'll fall right off. It'll land on the ground. So your best bet is to take it off right away and just eat it first,
and then eat the ice cream
hold on
after.
to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one in the middle is themed to Tangled. What's that one called?
It's called the Lost Princess Cone. So this, it's served at the Storybook Treats, and it's a purple cone that comes topped with lemon soft serve and a beautiful display of edible flowers.
Now these are real flowers and they don't really have a flavor to them, but they are edible. But some people were saying it was kind of like not a good combination. Even though it is beautiful looking, it didn't really, they just basically tasted one of the flowers and just picked them all off and threw them away and just ate the cone. So it's more of a garnish than anything else. So I would recommend just taking them off after you look at how cool it is, and then eat the lemon soft serve. That sounds pretty good. I'm not a huge lemon fan, at least when it comes to like sweet treats, but I do like lemon like soft serve for some reason. Like I'm not a lemon meringue or a lemon pie person, but I will eat a nice lemon like ice cream or something, or like Mike. I almost said Mike's Hard Lemonade. Like, you know, like the like the icy that has lemon in it, whatever you call that, like Del. They call. I don't know if they have those where you but they have
those lemonade ones, right?
Yeah, they in New England they have a brand called Del that sells this, and it's like Italian ice with lemon flavoring. It's basically. It's like a glorified snow cone, basically, in a cup. Yeah. So, but it's really, I enjoy those. But the third one is from one of your favorites. What's the Adventureland one?
So this is being served at Aloha Isle. This is the Hey Hey Cone. And this is a blue cone filled with a layer of pineapple Dole Whip, raspberry soft serve, sugar eye pieces, and a sour candy cone. And this is stinking adorable.
It looks like one of those, a flattened sour worm.
Oh yeah, I think it is like one of those sour like tape kind of thing. But oh my gosh, I need to get this. I think this is so cute, and
we're looking at it from behind. I think, is that the back or the front?
It's kind of like side-ish front. Yeah.
Is that supposed to be his beak?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Or like his goblet or whatever they call that thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's whatever. He's a rooster.
Not Waddle, right? It's not Waddle, or is it Waddle?
It is Waddle. I think it is. Yeah. But anyway, I read something about the raspberry flavor. So you cannot purchase the raspberry Dole Whip. This is the first time they've ever served raspberry Dole Whip in Disney. You can't purchase it on its own. You can get, you can get the pineapple by itself, but they actually are keeping the raspberry machine in the back hidden for now. So you can't order the raspberry by itself. You can only get it on this cone for now. They specified, the Disney employees that she asked, the cast members, they specified for now. So they either, depending on the popularity, they might start offering it by itself. But for the time being, if you want to get the raspberry Dole Whip, you have to buy it with the special ice cream here. And I also read that you got to be careful because this one melts and everything starts falling apart after like 5 seconds. So
Yeah,
You
because
gotta
it's
eat
Dole
it
Whip.
fast.
So
yeah, and you're in
it
the
melts
Florida,
quicker than ice cream. Yeah.
And you're out in the Florida heat, humidity. So yeah.
Yeah. They have the raspberry Dole Whip at the Tropical Hideaway in Disneyland. So.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do.
But that's
so
new
I think
also.
that's kind of it's new, and I think that's kind of where they're getting the idea from. Is
Right.
so they have it over there in California, so let's try it in Florida.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another After Dark event that's been announced that's going to be Marvel themed, and this is the first one that's going to be in California Adventure. The others they've had 3 others. And they've all been held. Well, they've had 2 others, and there's one other. Or have they had the?
They only had the Valentine one so far, but they still have the 90s.
Yeah, they're gonna have
one
the
to do.
90s, which is gonna be in Disneyland. But this one, which is gonna be after those, is gonna be 2 nights. What are the dates?
April 30th and May 1st.
May 1st, right? And they're gonna be inside DCA for a change.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna have I'm reading what all the offerings are. So the tickets went on sale, and they're probably already sold out because these sell out immediately. Especially the theming on this one. It's probably sold out instantly. But you can always go online and try.
Yeah.
No guarantees. But what they're gonna have is a rockin' dance party. I'm imagining it's gonna be where the Mad Tea Party used to be.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have the superheroes walking around, and they're encouraging you to wear a superhero costume with certain, restrictions, like you can't have your head covered or anything.
Right.
They're going to have all those photo locations where they set up like a cardboard looking thing and you stand in front of it or behind it, or, and they'll have free photo pass included in your admission. So they'll take all sorts of pictures, as many as you want, and then you can download them for free. So that's nice. That's worth the price of admission because they charge a lot for those photo pass images.
Yeah, they do.
And it doesn't cost Disney anything to give them away for free. So basically, they're not losing any money by giving them out, and you're getting your money's worth because that's a real value. Because they charge it. I only bought one of them when I went to Disney World, and it was like $30 or something.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got unlimited, that's going to pay. You're going to get a bargain there. So, now the next thing is in downtown Disney, and they're going to do a special limit. I think it's only going to be there temporary, as far as I can tell from what I've read. But it's going to replace the ESPN zone. And they're calling it Pop-Up Disney and Mickey Celebration. And what it is basically you go in and you can just take selfies everywhere. They're going to have all sorts of different setups located throughout the venue, like the one you're looking at, that'll have like Disney theming and whatnot, and you'll just be able to have your pictures taken. I'm sure they'll have photo pass there, and you'll be able to take selfies and everything. And you have to pay to get in. Now, they haven't announced when it's going to open or how much it's going to cost. And Disney's being really weird about it. Because I read the article where people can leave comments, and everybody was asking, like, they comment after comment, when is it opening? When is it opening? How much is it? How much is it? And none of these were answered. And there was one question that was not related to any of that, and Disney answered it. That's the only one they answered. It was something about, is this going to be like the exhibit in New York City called Pop-Up Mickey? And they said, no, this is going to be something totally different. So that was the one question they answered. But, like, they're being really hush-hush about the price point and the dates. So I don't know what's going on. It seems very strange to announce something and not be able to tell you when it's going to open and how much it's going to cost.
Right.
Like, maybe wait until you can give out that information before you make the announcement? I don't understand.
Yeah. I don't know.
What is your thought? I'm not really I don't really like this. I don't like the idea of having to pay to go in and take your pictures yourself.
Well,
I mean, is it going to include PhotoPass?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have said it was going to be like the exhibit that they just recently closed in New York City, I would have been like, okay, that's cool. Because that whole thing was like kind of like a history of Mickey. They showed old, items and things like that. And then they did have like these cool sculptures and things that you definitely would want to take your picture with.
Yeah, that's not what this is at all. Well, that last part.
I don't know why. Why? Why isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm
They
not a
just
big
closed
fan.
that one in New York. Why don't they just bring that one to California?
This concept art, I'm not a fan of this.
Right.
It looks kind of tacky, if you ask me. I wouldn't want my picture in this.
Yeah.
It looks,
Plus,
I don't know.
how many people are going to be on that, like, daily?
Yeah. I don't know if I feel comfortable sitting on that.
Yeah.
And, like, leaning up against it like that. Didn't they have, like, a measles outbreak at Disney recently?
They did.
Not
recently. It had to have been over a year ago, but still.
I don't know. If I was gonna do that, I'd have to bring like some sort of antibacterial spray with me or something.
I know.
Some Lysol before I get on there.
Well, I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing more about what this actually is.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing people's selfies and then making a decision on whether or not. If I see a bunch of more tacky setups like this one, then I'm not interested. If they have some cool looking stuff, like if they have, like, Through the Looking Glass, the Mickey Mouse short from the 30s with giant telephones and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah, but what is this?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this is.
Is this like, I don't know.
This is the rare circumstance where the concept art does not look that appealing.
Might not be as good as, the actual thing will be better than the concept, hopefully.
Right, hopefully.
But, I mean, I don't hate it, but, I mean, I'm just not excited about this and I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So. Well, that's the end. We did it.
That's all, folks.
We did it in less than 2.5 hours this time, Ruthie. We're trying to get these shorter. We only picked 3 news stories today.
I know.
We just have so much to say about everything, especially me.
We want to give you guys all the information.
So, Ruthie, where can everybody find Jiminy Crickets on the web?
You can find all of our past shows, including audio versions of Dateline Jiminy Crickets, on our website, jcricketpodcast.blogspot.com. You can also listen to us on iTunes under the name Jiminy Crickets. That's with an exclamation point, and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. On our YouTube channel, we share updates to the Disney Chris website, including the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour, as well as past episodes of the Jiminy Crickets podcast and Dateline Jiminy Crickets. You can find our channel if you search for DisneyChris.com, and remember, .com is spelled out DOTCOM. You can also join in the conversation over on our Facebook page, Jiminy Crickets Podcast, where you can not only interact with Chris and me and all the fellow Cricketeers, but you can also stay up to date on all the latest details of our many worldwide web endeavors. If you would like to contact the show with any comments or questions, our email address is DisneyChris, DOTCOM, @gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
I am on Twitter at DisneyChris73. Ruthie is on Facebook under the name Ruthie Brown. That's spelled out BROWN, as in Charlie Brown.
Yes.
And I am Chris Linden on Facebook, spelled out LYNDON, as in Lyndon Johnson. My website is DisneyChris.com, home to the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour with over 1,650 audio tracks from Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom. And you'll also find on there the Disney Song of the Day. I post a new Disney song every day of the year. And if you would like to support what we do here on Jiminy Crickets and on my website, DisneyChris.com, you can become a Patreon subscriber if you go to patreon.com/DisneyChris. We also have other ways you can donate if you don't want to use Patreon. And to find out how you can donate using PayPal, I lost my train of thought there for a second. I forgot what it was called. PayPal on disneychris.com/donate.html. That's where you can find all of our donation options, and there's links there and everything. That's directly on my website. Now, you also can do a monthly contribution on PayPal. I have eBay in my head, and I keep wanting to say eBay instead of PayPal.
Not eBay.
Don't go to eBay to donate, folks. Just PayPal or Patreon. So, Ruthie, do you have any final words for today?
To quote Walt Disney, laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, dreams are forever.
And always let your conscience be your guide.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. M-I-C.
See you real soon.
K-E-Y.
Why? Because we like you.
M-O.